Welcome to After the Poll, the video series where each and every week I take you through the comic lands of Marvel, DC, independent comics, and yes, a classic comic, which we're covering, Nightfall, and I give you all my thoughts and opinions on those comic books, and I give you my pick of the week. I'm Mike Spider-Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content, you like me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, you guys came to the right place. Hit that subscribe button. You're not going to be disappointed. We got a fun show for you today. So sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, have a coffee, and let's get started. Kicking things off with Marvel Comics. And guys, we had 7 Marvel Comics to discuss this week. And the first one we're talking about, coming in at number 7, unfortunately goes to Iron and Frost. This is issue 3. Yeah, the second issue of this was actually pretty darn good, as we got to see this crazy Tony Stark, who's been changed into this like crazy uncontrollable robot, actually kill James Rhodes in here, War Machine, and you're left with a crazy cliffhanger, and I actually like that. And in this issue, they're just kind of like, why did you do that? Why did you kill him? And then you got like Emma Frost and Tony kind of going at it with each other. There's this destruction that's going to happen, and Emma's trying to convince him not to do it, and she basically kind of sacrifices herself in the book, and it leaves off with actually a cliffhanger as well, and you're never going to get the end of that story. Never. So, you know, it was kind of like, oh, all right. You know, the book had some emotion to it. I loved seeing the interactions between Emma Frost and Tony Stark in the book. But besides that, it's kind of like I said, when it comes to these Age of Revelation books, you're kind of like, okay, it's done. Moving on now to the next story arc, right? So there's that. All right, coming in at number 6, we have the New Avengers. This is issue 7. As much as I like this book, I'm kind of getting a little bit tired of the story with the Killamati. It is kind of fun seeing these different cloned versions of them. But I feel like, okay, now I feel like after 6 issues, I felt like we could go move on. And we get introduced to another version of like Medusa, who calls herself Rapunzel. And then there's another version of the character that calls himself Lord Britain, right? So there are more clones that are involved in this book. A lot of talking head stuff that goes along in this book, because we wind up finding out, well, obviously we knew this already in the last issue, is that Winter Soldier, he is kind of on the fence if he should trust Natasha or not, right? So, you know, they have some cool character moments in here, and after doing some DNA testing, he finds out, you know what? She's okay. And then this book does take a turn, you know, for the worse when it comes to Bucky. But nevertheless, it was okay. All the other stuff was okay. I just find myself kind of more interested in the whole Natasha and Bucky situation than the clone stuff, you know. I'm kind of curious where you guys stand on this now that this is, you know, 7 issues in. How long is this actually lasting? Is this an ongoing series? I have no idea. All right. Now we move on to number 5, and that is The Amazing Spider-Man. This is issue 17. This is the cosmic side of things now when it comes to Amazing Spider-Man. And when we read this book, when it comes to Spider-Man in space, it's almost a Spider-Man that is unrecognizable to me, right? He's not wearing his traditional costumes. He's not interacting with the same characters, and he's just dealing with just different stuff that you're not used to seeing. Now, in the same sense, I can give Joe Kelly credit for trying to do something different. Kind of like what he did in the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, right? He's putting Spider-Man out into space, and he's, you know, Peter's gone, and he has some of his other, you know, closest allies or enemies, I should say, posing as Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I like that aspect of it, but when Peter's out here in this different world, I'm just, for some reason, I can't get into it. And we wind up getting to see him right away interact with that. I think it's that female extraterrestrial Ray chick. And right away, it's like, we got to go to this well of, hey, I'm just making sure that this is not a real relationship. It's like, God forbid if Peter ever gets into a real relationship with somebody, whether it's Mary Jane, Black Cat, an extraterrestrial that he has a one-night stand with. It's just like they just want to nip it in the bud right there and then, right? And I do like the female character that he does interact with, and same thing, I kind of liked seeing that relationship. And once we got to this alien or whatever it is that was kind of holding her back, I just kind of lost interest in it, because Peter is not going to be in space for very much longer. He's going to get back on Earth. He's going to try to get his revenge on Hellgate. You can kind of see it. It's kind of predictable. And it was just one of those things where I was like, all right, it's not a horrible issue. It's not a bad issue, but I'm more interested in the Peter Parker elements, and I'm more interested in what's going on in Earth. So this one gets the number 5 spot for me this week. All right, coming in at number 4, we have All New Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider. This is issue 5. This is one of those books where it was kind of predictable. Obviously, we wind up getting to see our heroes here do battle against this other symbiote, and one of them happens to be Spider-Gwen's boyfriend, right? So they had to come up with a conclusion in order to figure out, okay, well, what are we going to do to stop these symbiotes from attacking us and taking over this entire prison and then escaping the prison? The military's waiting by the side here going, okay, how much longer are we going to give them before we destroy the prison, because we don't want these symbiotes out. So after the entire team listens to Spider-Gwen's plan in place, they come up with a way to stop the symbiotes. Cool, right? Kind of predictable. The end of the book was kind of cool, as well as we do get to see Gwen Stacy kind of start to put together the band once again. So this ends the first story arc for Spider-Gwen. An interesting comic. I like it. I don't think it's the best comic, but it is heading in the upward direction for me, and I do like all the character interactions within the title. So now I want to see, now that this first initial story arc is over, where do we go from here? All right, so now we move on to the top 3 from Marvel, and we have Ultimate Spider-Man. This is issue 23. This book is suffering a little bit from not doing anything to trying to shove everything in your face at the end, right? We get all kinds of different story plots going on in this story, whether it has to deal with Dr. Octopus, kind of covering for Richard Parker in there. And then we have the whole situation that's going on with Black Cat. And we have the other situation that's going on in here with Harry Osborn and his dad and Gwen. And we just have the whole story with Kingpin actually getting ousted out into the public, showcasing that he's not this great guy. And there's just so many things in here. Same thing with like Mr. Negative. And you're just kind of wondering as the reader, okay, we have one more issue to figure this all out, to close this whole thing out. How are they going to conclude it, right? I mean, Jesus. But you finally do get Spider-Man in here doing some fighting stuff. And that's what made this comic book shine. And this is what the people actually been wanting so long from this comic, is seeing Peter just do some fighting, right? And he gets to do that here, and he doesn't take no for an answer. He will not get beat down, right? He will not take this loss. And I thought it was pretty cool. It was a good ending, and it's setting up for a cool conclusion. However, like I said, I don't know how we're going to wrap this up in one more issue. I do know it's oversized. It's 48 pages, but still, there's still what seems to me a lot of story going on here. All right, coming in at number 2 when it comes to Marvel Comics this week is Ultimate Wolverine. This is issue 12. This is a great issue, man. I really, really love this one. the best Wolverine / X book that you're going to read on the stands today, and one of the best Marvel comics of the year, I would say, as well, as we do get to see Wolverine try to get his revenge in here for all the deaths that happened in the last issue. So everything that you read in the last issue is actually sticking, right? And we get to see just Wolverine goes balls to the wall. He goes in berserker mode. And oh my gosh, dude, I was like, dang, this stuff is intense. And then you wind up getting to see Ileana in here, and then you wind up getting to see Colossus in this book as well, and they're doing battle against Wolverine. And then the way it ends, you're kind of like, oh man, that's awesome, with Wolverine meeting up with a particular character that we were introduced at the end. This was a freaking good book, almost my top pick from Marvel this week, but my top pick from Marvel this week does go to Spider-Man Wolverine in the Sights of the Arachnid, right? This one is issue number 8. Once again, the artwork in this book, top notch, right? I mean, look at that pin-up page in there. It reminds you of the 90s. It just looks like the 90s. The action is all there. When you're reading it, it's just, you're at the edge of your seat. And what I like about this, and I know we've seen this before, is that this does take place in a parallel universe, and we wind up getting to see Reed Richards wanting to destroy this Arachnid's character. He's bringing in these different Wolverines and Spider-Mans for a reason here, and they go out on this mission to try to stop him, and then they come across, they go to Latveria, oh my God, I can't say it, Latveria, to actually do battle against the Arachnid's character. And then what happens is you get to see a mashup of all your favorite characters, like Hulk Panther, right? I mean, that's pretty cool. I was like, oh, wow. And then things just hit it from there, and you get introduced to more mashup characters, and right there I thought, okay, well, that's Psylocke, but who is she mixed up with? And you do get introduced to these, I think it's 3 other characters. This is a spoiler, so if you don't want to see this, fast forward a few seconds here, but you wind up getting to see Name Thor, Psy-Hulk, Ultra Fist, and of course Panther Hulk, and they look like this. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is awesome. Like, that's what I like about this comic. It's so much fun. You can't take it too seriously. And sometimes, again, that's what makes these alternate universes or parallel universe, absolute universe, ultimate universes so much fun, because you can play in the toy box. Just a great book from Marvel this week. Really loved it. Welcome to the land of DC Comics, and DC's been crushing it this year. But today, we only unfortunately have 4 DC comics to discuss. I did talk about another one on Worthy Ones earlier, and that was Absolute Batman issue 15. But we got 4 here on this week's episode, and coming in at number 4, and just letting you know, this is not a bad comic book. This is Court, Children of the Round Table. This is issue 4. This is a really solid series, and this is one of those books that's an all-age series. I did a video last week. It didn't do very well, where it's like, how can we get the younger generation into comic books? And it's titles like these is what delivers that message, right? And this is something that you can read to your kids, or you can give to your kids and be like, hey, check this out. This is a cool series about these kids that get these weapons from like Knights of the Round Table, and they all have these powers, and they have this responsibility now to do battle against this particular enemy. And it just continues that as they're learning kind of like how their powers work and where Camelot is and where certain people are, and it's learning about relationships, and it's just a fun and overall good series, right? So I had a really fun time with this. If you've read it from the start, I'm sure you're enjoying it as well. Great issue here, great cliffhanger as well, as we do find out what happened with the grandmother there. All right, so coming in at number 3, if you're looking for something that's completely different from what's going on from DC right now, you have Superman Action Comics issue 1093, as we're dealing with a young Clark Kent who has discovered his powers. He's trying to use his powers. He's coming across his first enemies for the first time. And this one, he's forced not to use his powers for the most part in this issue, as everyone's houses or farms are getting foreclosed on. And it's by this Joe Schmo right here who says, oh, there's a banking error in here. We'll have to get, we'll have to see if we can fix things, but it looks like you guys are going to be losing your farms. And we wind up getting to see other people or farmers getting involved, protesting. And Clark is trying to figure out a means to actually solve this issue. And Ma Pa Kent saying, using your powers in this situation is not the right thing to do. You're not going to steal money. You're not going to steal gold to save our farm. And so we wind up seeing Clark kind of flexing his investigation skills in this issue and using it to his leverage in order to get the farms back for all the other farmers in Smallville. So this book was cool. I mean, there was no major bad guy, right? It wasn't a lot of action, but it was a fun book to read. And like I said, this is something different from what's going on in the DC world today. All right, so coming in at number 2 here, we do have Supergirl. This is issue 8. This was another book that was, again, something completely different. It's a guilty pleasure book for me. I really like the book. I think it's well-told story. It's fun stories about Supergirl and her family. And in this issue, we learn about something that happened in the Silver Age where she had this android, Linda, I think that's what she called her, right? And whenever Supergirl couldn't be in places at the same time, right, she sent out this android to kind of fill in to be the daughter and just to, act like that. Well, as time has gone along, she's used this robot less and less, and she's left her behind. And then at the end of the issue, she's all malfunctioning, and she's like, you finally need me. It's so hilarious, right? But that's not the major part of the issue. The major part of the issue is about Kara, how she actually has to, it's during the holiday time, and she has to deal with, not having her family around, like her real family, right? Because Krypton has exploded and are not around, and the Christmas time is all about being, having family and all that stuff. So it was good. I enjoyed it for what it was. And again, this is one of those guilty pleasure books for me. But my top pick from DC Comics this week, guys, goes to Aquaman vs. Hawkman issue 12. If you have not read your issue yet, please just fast forward it to the end of this portion of the video where we go into the indie comics, because I need to talk about this comic book. I'm going to give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, so here we go. When it comes to this comic book, first of all, it was just a badass issue. Everything that's been happening in the Aquaman series has been leading up to this tournament. Now, before I knew anything about this tournament, I selected Aquaman to lose, because even though Aquaman is a formidable hero, I never thought he would be strong enough to maybe make an impact in this actual tournament. I'm like, yeah, sure, he's going to win against King Shark, but I can see him losing against Hawkman, right? He's got godlike powers, things like that. Aquaman, ocean guy, talks to fish. That's always been my mentality. Never been into him, right? So in this book, you wind up getting to see Aquaman get ready to prepare for his tournament. And let me tell you, the writing here by Jeremy Adams is absolutely awesome. If you read that Lobo and Wonder Woman book, this blows that shit out of the water. No pun intended. It was so freaking good. The action in this book was so well done. I loved seeing Aquaman kind of tap into the powers, tap into the blue in order to defeat Hawkman. My theory of having the fight pattern be the same whenever you have a victor, that's kind of over now, because in the other victors, you wind up seeing them lose the first round, win the next two. In this issue, you wind up getting to see Aquaman win the first round, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, now he's going to lose the second round. No, he wins the second round. He is so badass in this freaking comic book that he literally destroys Hawkman without a blink of an eye. Like, he handed him his ass. And it's just like, oh shit, like, my gosh, like, what's going to happen now when it comes to Aquaman? Like, he has the opportunity to really be a formidable opponent against Superman, I would think, right? And this was just an excellent issue. And I just couldn't believe the way Hawkman was acting too at the end of it, because he couldn't believe it himself how strong and powerful Aquaman was. So yeah, really good book, guys. If you haven't read Aquaman versus Hawkman, definitely read it. Freaking phenomenal issue here. Welcome to the land of the independent comics, where these days I feel like this is the world that rules. We have 4 indies to discuss this week, and they're pretty good. And the first one we're talking about is Ignition Press's The Beauty. This is issue 2. This is a fun book. I mean, I really like the investigation process that's going on when it comes to the beauty. And it's a beautiful book to look at. The characters all look phenomenal. And really what it is about this female right here who is trying to, find out some dirt about the beauty and everything that goes along with it. And she came across this crazy guy, and it almost created this really bad injury. Well, it did create a bad injury, almost created a fatal injury for her. And so now that this part of the mission has been messed up, she has to go out there and actually dig deeper in order to find out more about this beauty, right? And I don't want to give it away of what that actually is. And there's also this guy called Dan the Weatherman, who doesn't want to be like second fiddle to this other good-looking weather guy. So he winds up acquiring the beauty as well in the issue. And after a beauty party, he sits there and he's like, damn, I look hot, So we're going to find out more about his story as well. And then there's this other story that was introduced when it comes to some football players, right? Obviously, you can't do steroids and stuff like that in the NFL. And so we're talking about maybe using the beauty as an actual like enhancement for to get an edge over other players. So there's a lot of little different story threads going on in the book, which I like. And again, while you're reading the book, it's a pretty book to look at as well. So a lot of moving pieces, which could be hard to follow at times, but I really do like the investigation that's going on and seeing the length that this female goes to try to solve this case. There's some dirt on her, but we're not quite sure what that is yet. So really good book there. All right. And then we have Assorted Crisis Events issue 7. So this one's written by Denise Camp. He writes all these issues. And Assorted Crisis Event is exactly kind of what it is. Earth is going through a crisis, and everyone is dealing with the crisis in its own way. So every time you get an issue, you deal with an individual that's dealing with a crisis. And this guy's crisis is this guy's name is Tom. And his condition is that what happens is that he'll be walking along, and one day or 1 hour or 1 minute, he just starts to see dead Toms everywhere. Like, yeah, they're not like popping out of his body or anything, but they just show up. So it's like, say you were walking to the refrigerator, right? And there's another dead Tom right there. It's like, whoa, what's going on? So this guy at first you know, it was a pretty sad story. Like, he had a funeral for the first one and he wound up burying him and all these things. And now they start popping up more and more frequently. He has no room to bury him in his house or in his yard. And so then he has to take them to like the dump, and he just dumps them everywhere. And he just can't quite live his normal life. He's behind on the rent because he can't work, because people find it frightening that murdered Toms pop up everywhere. Oh my God, this book was wacky and wild. And when you get to the end, it's actually kind of a happy ending, but you're going to see that the struggle that this guy has is going to be for the rest of his life. My God, this is some weird crap. I said this in a video that I most recently recorded. I think Denise Camp does some mushrooms, and whatever book he's deciding to write that day, whatever mushrooms take an effect in his brain, he starts there and says, oh, this sounds like a good story. And then he writes it down, and there's a comic book. I mean, how do you come up with this stuff, man? It's so out there. All right. And then coming in at number 2, we have Geiger. This is issue 19. This is a story centered around Ashley Arden. So we kind of get to see her away from all the action as she was separated from the party. And we see her come across some children that are being trafficked in. And I thought that was kind of sad, right? So it's like, you never want to see kids being hurt. It doesn't matter if it's during an apocalypse or a bad situation, and you wind up getting to see these kids sold, used for slavery or sex or whatever it is. And then we wind up getting to see Ashley wind up kicking ass, taking names, and she learns how she teaches these kids to learn how to use guns and to kind of take care of themselves and, you know, put matters in their own hands to protect themselves. It was a cool, small tale for Ashley, but when you do get to the end of the issue, you're left with a great cliffhanger on what's to come when it comes to this series, Geiger. I mean, oh my God, these things are going to cross paths. I can't wait to see that happen. Really freaking good. But my top pick this week, when it comes to the indies, goes to Transformers. This is issue 27. I tell you what, man, Robert Kirkman and Dan Mora are cooking on this book. They got some things coming up, right? And here we're getting the Autobots all ready and prepared to obviously do some Decepticon battle, because they're, you know, bringing back Autobots. They're polishing up. They're repairing themselves. That's something that they haven't done really at all. And you get introduced to so many different Autobots in here. And one of the Autobots here is Bumblebee. Does he come back? You have to read it to find out, right? But you do get to see like Trailblazer and Brawn, and you wind up getting to see Jetfire, like he's back in his normal mode. And it's just like you get to see the whole lineup get to come back. And I thought that was really a lot of fun. You get to see cool emotional moments between Carly and Spike as well. And I love seeing those moments because it does give it that human element in here. We also get to see a certain situation arising with Ultra Magnus. You'll have to read that to find out too. I'm curious to see where that's going to go. And then we get to see more stuff that's developing behind the scenes when it comes to the whole math situation and Miles Mayhem. The interactions between General Flag and him were top notch right there. And you can see how it's setting things up for him to become like the main bad guy, right? But really good stuff here. And obviously this book is really centered around Thundercracker, as he, yes, officially does become that Autobot. The artwork by Dan Mora is super clean. As much as I appreciated Jorge Corona and Daniel Warren Johnson's artwork on the book, as it gave it this extra energy, you can appreciate the polished and detailed effort that goes into the Decepticons and Autobots in this series, as they should be, because they are robots, right? I mean, that's what I like about when people draw robots and you need that detailed artwork, right? So cool stuff here. Look at Optimus. He looks great. overall top pick from the indies this week. And now it's time for the pick of the week. But before we get into that pick of the week, we got to find out which book was the top pick in Worthy Ones. So if you're not sure what Worthy Ones is, that is the video series where I discuss the newest issue 1 comic books that come out for the week. That takes place on Thursdays. So here were the books that are in contention to join Marvel, DC, and the indies. This is The Darkness. This is issue 1. Pretty solid read this week. We had The End 2099. That's issue 1, which is And then we had Ordained from Bad Idea, which was a pretty solid book as well. And every once in a while, we do cover the number 2 issue if there's not a lot of number 1s. And that is The Infernal Hulk. This is issue 2. And then also we'll cover first appearances, stuff like that. And we had Absolute Batman issue 15 as it's the first full appearance of the Absolute Joker. So the book that winds up joining the other 3, it's obvious. It's going to go to Absolute Batman issue 15. Great origin story of the Joker. Like I said, if you want to check out the full details on my thoughts of this book, check out Worthy Ones. I'll leave it at the end of this video. So here we go. We're going to go into the book that gets pick of the week. Is it Absolute Batman issue 15 from Worthy Ones? Is it Spider-Man Wolverine? Right? This is issue whatever it is. Issue 8. Is it Aquaman versus Hawkman? This is issue 12. Surprised the heck out of me. Or is it going to be Transformers? This is issue 27, where Robert Kirkman and Dan Moore are cooking up something nice. Well, the pick of the week winds up going to... That's it, guys. The Transformers issue 27. Congratulations. Listen, as good as Absolute Batman issue 15 is, it still just was an origin story. And when it came to Transformers, there was so much more story in this, so many more seeds planted, so many things introduced, where I was like that little kid watching that cartoon all over again. And I absolutely love this. This is a top tier book in so many ways, and I can't wait to look forward to this issue, or to future issues, I should say. And congratulations to Dan Mora, Robert Kirkman, and the entire team. I'm going to say congratulations to Daniel Warren Johnson for kicking this thing off. It's been a great ride so far. Let's continue it. And welcome to the land of classic comics, as I am continuing my coverage of Nightfall. And this one was released May 6th, 1993. This is Detective Comics issue 662, 32 pages for the price of $1.25. So this comic is Nightfall Part 8. And it's written by Chuck Dixon, and the penciler is done by Graham Nolan. So in this comic, we get a lot of Riddler in here. Here's what the cover looks like. It's a pretty sick cover. And then here is what the Riddler looks like in here as well. And what I like about this issue is we finally get to see, like, kind of Robin do his thing here as he takes matters in his own hand, as the Riddler is threatening to blow things up, right? I thought that was kind of cool. Meanwhile, you wind up getting to see Batman continuing his battle going against Firefly. And seeing him do that battle was actually pretty entertaining. We get to see, like, the protective suit that he's wearing, on how heavy it is and how it can take a toll on his body and all those different types of things, and how he is completely broken at this point, but he doesn't want to admit it. I thought that was kind of cool. And just all the different things that go into this book or into this Nightfall run so far. It's just fun to see all these different characters that Batman is doing battle against to lead up to the final boss. That's basically what this thing is so far. It's like a video game, right? But it does showcase every single villain from Batman's Rogue Gallery. And again, I do like to see how Robin is featured in here. And we also get the Huntress in here as well. I'm not used to her looking this way, but you know what? I thought it was kind of cool. And she takes out Riddler's Game in this as well. So yeah, by the time you wind up getting to the end of it, Batman's all beat to hell. How does he recover? Now, there is no Bane in this issue whatsoever. Just focuses on the Riddler, his gang, and Firefly, things like that, right? So, yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing how this whole thing continues. And we'll talk about issue 9 next week. And there we have it, guys. There are all my thoughts and opinions on all of the comic books this week. Do you agree with my pick of the week? I want to know in the comments section below, as well as what was your comic book pick of the week. As always, guys, I will leave you more content right there for you to click on, including After the Poll, like I talked about earlier, covering all those issue ones. And remember, guys, support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, but always remember, read your comics so we can have great comic conversation. Guys, I will see you tomorrow on Top 10 Most Pulled Comic Books.